Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Colonel Rob Manus back here with you, and welcome back to the Rob Manus Show. We have got a heck of a show today, and man, it has been a hell of a week. I'm telling you, folks, it has just been crazy. President Biden's talking about Armageddon over the Ukraine. Somebody blew up the Crimea bridge, the Kerch bridge that the Russians built to provide the infrastructure. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says Putin is a cornered animal. I tell you what, it's really going to be crazy. And polling is now beginning to show the reality of the Democrats are going to be crushed in November. I love it, and they deserve it because they're anti-American. And of course, for the bridge incident, President Putin has struck Kiev, including the German embassy, in response to that attack. He classifies the bridge as Russia's critical infrastructure. Also, some other craziness here at home. Pro-life Christians are being indicted, charged, and their homes raided by FBI tactical teams. It is unbelievable. And to help us step through this crazy stuff and mess is my friend Matt Couch from the D.C. Patriot, coming to us from the good state of Arkansas. How you doing, brother?
Colonel, I am great. I'm actually I'm watching your Gitter feed and doing those fun things right now, buddy. It's off and running, and what a mess this world is in 19 months under Joe Biden.
Outstanding, yeah, it is off and running. I'm glad to see it, and it's unbelievable, man. Okay, first up is good old Joe Biden, brother. I wouldn't put you under him because he has to have his wiped every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't want to touch those hairy legs, so I appreciate where you put me here.
Look, let me just give some context to this, and that is that, folks, in a couple of weeks after the special military operation started to phrase the Russian president back in February, he put his nuclear forces, all of them, on a heightened state of alert posture. And the reason why he's now talking about Armageddon this week is because the United States and its allies, primarily NATO, did not increase their nuclear force posture, man. And look, I'm a nuke guy from all the way at the top to the Pentagon, worked on the strategic plan and the tactical plans, and worked on the decision handbook for the president. So, a force posture change for the United States and NATO was appropriate because what Putin did when he increased his posture is made a threat. And he goes, I dare you. But in order for the theory of mutual assured destruction to work and for us not to be in a position of weakness, we needed to increase our posture. But no, what did President Biden do? He actually didn't do anything, and he took and canceled our regularly scheduled intercontinental ballistic missile tests that the U.S. Air Force does, where they pull a combat-ready missile out of its launch facility. It was on alert, targeted, ready to go, and they take the crew and the maintenance and the security force, and they truck it all out to a place on the West Coast, and they do a test launch after they remove the nuclear warhead. And they put a telemetry package in it. And that is not just to play a game. That is our standard process for proving to our potential enemies, any potential enemy that might want to use a nuclear weapon on us, that our weapons are safe, secure, and reliable. Keyword being reliable. Well, when he canceled that test and failed to increase our nuclear posture, he put us immediately in a position of weakness. And I predicted that this would happen. And now President Putin has overtly threatened to use at least tactical nuclear weapons if Russia's territory is encroached upon in the Ukraine-Russia war. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think, you and I talked a little bit before we went on the air here about this. I think the biggest problem is the misconception and the lie that's being told on both sides of the aisle in the American political media. And that's that Vladimir Putin is doing this unprovoked. Let's go back to 2014. For those that don't know how to look at history, the United States, the West, was heavily involved in the Obama administration. They literally removed a pro-Russian Ukrainian government and put in Zelensky, a pro-American government in place. Now, I'm not saying Zelensky was in at that time, but the point is, we did this coup. The West did the coup. So that was step one that literally, that pissed Putin off. You look at the Crimea situation where Obama just let him have it. But at the same time, 75-80% of those people in the Crimea region, they want to be Russians. The eastern Donbas region, Colonel, almost the entire eastern Ukraine wants to be Russian. They don't want to be Ukrainian. They've been saying that for years. That war has been going on for 8 years with the Donbas region fighting the Ukrainian military. And so the sad thing is that there was a peace deal on the table. I have an article coming out later today on this. The United States, through Boris Johnson, I don't know how much you know about this, you probably already know, but through Boris Johnson, the United States told the Ukrainians not to accept it and not to negotiate with the Russians. The peace deal was simple. The Donbas regions in the east would be able to basically, they would be able to govern themselves independently, not from Russia, not from the Ukraine. They'd be able to become their own country. Russia would keep Crimea, and then they would have access to, the ports where they need it for their military. And that was it. Putin was pulling his troops back to Moscow. Game over. And the United States, the Biden regime, along with, through the intermediary of Boris Johnson, told the Ukrainians not to negotiate. I don't know about you, but letting the Donbas regions who want to be, they've been fighting. That Republic Army has been fighting the Ukrainians for 8 years. There's 3 different sects over there of armies. They want to be Russian. So we're not being told the full picture. The American people aren't being told the real picture here. The real picture is letting the Donbas regions rule themselves. I'm not trying to filibuster. I'm almost done. But let the Donbas regions rule themselves. Leave Crimea alone that wants to be Russian anyway. Let Russia have access to the ports because they are a world power, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
And that sounds a hell of a lot better than nuclear Armageddon, doesn't it?
Oh, hell yes, it does. But here we go. So that's where we're at right now. And you can see Uncle Joe there in the picture looking at his favorite thing, apparently, is mushroom clouds. And it's unbelievable. As somebody who has served 33 years in the military, my dad served all throughout the Cold War for over 23 years. My older brother served in the Cold War, all in the Air Force. And we did a hell of a job, and we brought the Soviet Union down without going into a major war with those folks. And now here we are because of the inept, dementia-addled President of the United States and the crazies that are in his administration. We need to do mental health assessments on anybody that gets appointed to an administration from here on out, in my opinion, as part of their Senate confirmation, quite frankly. Because here's where we are next. Putin, being his wonderful self, is really pissed off right now. And the video you're seeing right now, folks, is the bridge at Kherson that the Russians built to Crimea. And that bridge has been attacked and set aflames, blown up. Civilians were killed. We don't know how many yet. There was no warning. And right now it's being pinned on Ukraine. But just today, folks, it was uncovered that the UK senior intelligence officials developed the plan to blow up the Kherson Bridge using Ukrainian forces back in May of 2022. Yes, I said that right, correctly, just 5 months ago. So you can expect that there will be a response. As a matter of fact, there has been a response. And let me see if I can get that video up, Matt, while we're talking about this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's, first off, war is war. But at the same time, we're funding this war, Colonel. That's something that I think is the biggest concern. We're up to like 125, maybe 150 billion. I know Biden just signed off on another 12 billion last week to go to the Ukraine. This guy, Zelensky, is a problem. You've got the pictures out there. It's not just Matt Couch or Colonel Rob Manis who are posting these. Like, there's lots of legitimate sources, friends of yours and mine, like Jack Posobiec, like Raheem Kassam. We're posting. The leader of the Ukrainian military under Zelensky is literally walking down the street with a swastika bracelet on, Colonel. You can see it plain as day.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And we broke this story, and I will say this over at the DC Patriot, and thank God for the people at NBC News, and you won't hear me say that probably ever again in my lifetime. But they actually backed us up and covered this story as well about the Nazi battalions from the Azov and others over in the Ukraine. This is a problem. It is communists versus Nazis. You have to go back and look at the history of Kiev, and you have to look at the fact that when Hitler came in during World War II, they didn't fight. They hung Heil Hitler banners in Kiev. They welcomed the Nazis in the Ukraine. That's where most of the Nazis went. Now, this is a history lesson for a lot of people that are not paying attention and are just putting up, yellow and blue flags in their profile pics, and I don't know what you would call that. I mean, I guess it's just I don't know what the hell it is at this point. It's just nonsensical. But at the end of the day, this is a really, really bad group of people. It's really two bad groups of people, in all honesty, if we're being honest here, Colonel. But we're funding a war against a nuclear power. And I'm going to say one more thing. I don't want to I've been filibustering your show. You can. What do the Democrats say? You can buy my time back or something like that.
Well, I brought you on here to talk.
So I'm not bugging you then. That's good. So. But I will say this much: when you look at us funding this war, and you look at everything that we're seeing right now, the biggest concern to me right now is people don't understand what's really happening. Everyone's like, oh, the Russians are losing this fight. No, they're not. Let me explain something to those that don't understand, that think the Russians are winning, that have been watching way too much television. Putin does not want to turn the Ukraine into a rubble parking lot. He wants that to be part of the motherland again. The polling before the war started was like 70% of Ukrainians sympathized and wanted to be part of Russia again. This is not these are their brothers and sisters. So for everyone that's like, oh, this is taking forever and they're struggling with the Ukrainian army and Russia's not very strong, understand this is not World War II scenario where they're trying to bomb the hell out of them and take over land. They're trying, they want to take over, but they also don't want to destroy the country because they want the country and they want the people who want to be part of Russia. So if you attack the people that harshly and that hard, like everyone is, keeps saying the Russians are struggling, well, then you're going to have the people turn against you in that region, if that makes sense, Colonel. No one seems to be able to put two and two together.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. We've already got one of our viewers asking who blew up the pipeline, and he or she is talking about the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, I'm sure. We can get to that in a second. But, you're right, Matt. The Russians have no desire to completely destroy the country. But when they say they will defend themselves, we should listen. We should listen. And the United States once had statesmen and military leaders that were also part statesmen that were very capable of helping get warring parties to the table and sorting out an agreement. This goes, as you mentioned, goes way back. And the loop you're watching, folks, is the missile strikes on Kiev, which was a response from the Russians for the attack on the Kherson Bridge, considered Russian critical infrastructure. Those words are very, very important because if the president of Russia has said they're critical infrastructure, I'm sure that he now classifies that attack as a terrorist attack and likewise an act of war too, at least by the Ukraine. And with the story about the UK senior intelligence officers coming out today, having developed the plan and intended to use Ukrainian forces to get it done, we are in a bit of a pickle. We certainly are. And, you never know what's going to happen. I don't think the Russians feel their homeland is threatened at this point, Matt. And I've seen some video coming out of them building defensive positions in the eastern Donbass, where they have taken the territory and secured those republics that have now voted to join the Russian Federation. So it doesn't look like they're going to go on the offense into Ukraine proper again. But they're going to respond, and they did respond. I think the fatalities from the missile strikes is up to 19. As I said, we don't know how many civilians. That's civilians. And we don't know how many civilians were killed in the Kherson Bridge the Kersh Bridge bombing, but there are some. So you can expect that. That's what happens in industrial war. We haven't seen an industrial war like this since the end of World War II, really, except for some very small battles like the city of Hue in the Vietnam War. But this is on a scale that is unknown, really, to the people that are in charge of these countries, like the United States and the NATO countries. And they have put themselves and us in a pickle. Don't you think?
I agree with that. I mean, I think it's alarming to think that we've got a guy who literally doesn't know who he's supposed to shake hands with that is in control of the nuclear football. That's concerning. Our adversaries see it. The leadership is more concerned about feelings and gender equality and racism and things of that nature, which are minuscule compared to nuclear war. And it's like they keep pushing the same talking points. I still like to feel that our military is much more inept than the Biden regime or the Biden White House, if you will. And then we've still got some good guys in the rank and file that can, in the ranks of our military, branches that can handle a situation if it does get to that level. But we're at a point right now where both sides are lying. The Ukrainians, the worse they make it sound, Colonel, the worse they make it sound, well, the more funding they get from the United States and their allies. I do believe that the pipeline, I think everyone believes that the United States from what I've researched with a couple of CIA guys, it looks like the only two people capable of blowing that pipeline were the United States or the United Kingdom from a military standpoint. Yeah. And so that, right, and the Russians know that. Hell, they're not stupid. As much as our media would like to tell you this, they're, for what it's worth, the ruble's worth more than it's ever been. The sanctions have completely backfired. Russia's got more money than they've ever had. They're making billions of dollars each month. I think their oil to the Chinese is up. They're up to I think it's like $14 billion a month. Their entire military budget was like $60 billion. They're going to be able to quadruple that next year on a military budget. Their military budget's going to go from 60 to about 250 billion, which is a scary thought. Everything we've done in this situation as an administration has backfired. And the biggest thing to me is you're funding someone against, again, I'll say it again, a world power, a nuclear power. You're the catalyst that is allowing these people to continue to kill Russian soldiers, to attack the Russians, because without our funding, they couldn't do it. At what point does Putin say enough is enough? Or at what point does some idiot in the Ukraine who's in charge of that military or a ranking person of that military, do they get a hold of one of those, launchers and fire a couple of IBMs, non-nuclear, but they fire a couple of IBMs into Russia and hit a couple of targets in Russia? This thing's going to go from, we're trying to peacefully take this because we love the people to, hey, enjoy being a parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't even take an IRBM, intermediate range ballistic missile is what we're talking about. And we provided some of those, the West has provided some of those that have been used in Ukraine proper to defend themselves to some success, really. But it won't even take one of those. If we send air defense missiles over there and the Ukrainians happen to shoot a Russian airplane down, but the missile falls on Russian territory and causes damage to infrastructure, or God forbid kills Russian civilians, that's going to be that'll be blown up through propaganda into an attack on Russian territory. And I sincerely believe that all Putin is looking for to use tactical nukes on these guys is a trigger. The critical infrastructure target, the big bridge, I don't think is enough of a trigger. But he certainly responded very quickly and responded with overwhelming targeting in the city of Kiev, which hasn't been really targeted that much since the most of the heavy fighting went back down into the eastern part of the country in the Donbass and those breakaway republics, which is what the status quo was. So, I'm calling for the President of the United States needs to get off his butt and start, instead of encouraging a nuclear conflagration, Armageddon, start the peace process, because the two belligerents are not going to do it. The two belligerents are not going to do it, and it really doesn't matter why Putin started his operation or not. We are the only power with a president, with the president of the United States. As much as I think the guy is a weak person and couldn't lead his way out of a wet paper bag, he really has to get off of his duff and start to work on a diplomatic settlement to this. Because the Ukrainians are not going to get that territory back. They don't have the forces. If NATO and the United States went in with forces, they might be able to get it back. But Russia's sitting right there with all of their logistics capability and all of their infrastructure. They make their own weapons. They make their own airplanes. They always have, and those kind of things. And it's just silly to continue to think that this thing is going to be fought out to where the Ukrainians can retake all of that territory. Now, I could be wrong. And I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. But why are we tinkering around and tickling the possibility of a nuclear exchange between Russia and NATO, or Russia and the United States? Because I guarantee you, they see us as the enemy now, just like our silly senators like Lindsey Graham have been saying incorrectly that we're at war with them.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the terminology. I hate to use the word hate. It's a strong. I actually hate Lindsey Graham, I think, at this point, too. It's a strong word. What a turncoat rhino that guy has completely became to our republic. But, you look at Poland right now, who talked a big game. We're not going to allow Russia. We're not having another. They talked, they postured, they pounded their chests, and now they're burning trash to keep warm, Colonel.
Yeah.
So for anyone, once again, it goes into the entire American media propaganda machine, which is, almost, other than people like yourself and I, it's almost no different than, the American media is not much different than North Korean media, Iranian media, Russian media, Chinese media, because they all say the same thing. And if you differ from it, you're an enemy, right, of the state now.
That's right.
If you don't agree with the American media, mainstream media, you're now a conspiracy theorist. You're a misinformation, a disinformation peddler. And so everyone is watching the boob tube, and they're basically coming to these assumptions that, Russia is weak. Russia's not weak.
Yeah.
They've got more money than they ever had. They are thriving, monetarily right now. And like you said, their GDP may be like 65 billion, but they're making everything at home. We don't really know what the hell they're spending. We don't know how much the Russians invested in Bitcoin. Hell, we don't know. Right. Putin could have $1 trillion in Bitcoin. We don't know.
Well, he's certainly on his way, between he and his Chinese partners, on their way to trying to either reduce the effectiveness or even destroy the petrodollar, because he's only taking rubles in payment for his energy products that he's continuing to sell to an ever larger and increasing number of countries that are still buying from him, because not everybody's on the side of the liberal West. And places, organizations like the World Economic Forum, and quite frankly, a lot of the citizens of the countries, including myself, I am not on the side of the World Economic Forum either, and I'm not interested in my country supporting an alliance that gets into a nuclear war with Russia on the European continent. And you know what? We killed hundreds of thousands of Americans and civilians and German troops and Italian and Japanese troops and civilians in World War II. But quite frankly, I'm not so sure the United States should be in the business of saving Europe's bacon any longer if they're going to get us into a situation like this.
I'd agree with that. I mean, you look back, and my grandfather, that generation used to always joke and laugh about the French. I think we've joked about the French since the Revolutionary War as Americans. But the World War II guys that my grandfather ran around with, which was several of them that I met throughout my youth growing up, we didn't see what they saw, but you know where I'm going with this, Colonel. Like the lack of care or give a damn, if you will, for Americans, even though Americans saved their backside for generationally in Europe. I don't know why we're doing either. I mean, they're not paying their fair share to NATO. That was one of Trump's big issues. They're still not. Germany, from what I understand, now I don't know. I don't know how much you've heard of this, but there's a rumor going around. I love rumors, right? But I don't. Normally where there's smoke, there's fire. That the United States blew the pipeline because Germany was trying to back out of funding this war. Did you hear the same thing?
No, I hadn't heard that, but wouldn't surprise me.
If I get sniped right now, you'll know that was true, right? While I'm sitting here through my window.
Germany's been dragging their feet on providing supplies, material, weapons to the Ukraine the entire time. They drug their feet initially. They didn't shut off their buys to the Russian gas pipelines and those kind of things. So it wouldn't surprise me. What would surprise me is if it wasn't the United States and the UK that blew that pipeline, because the only evidence that exists is this current president of the United States saying that he will end, the United States will end the Nord Stream 2 pipeline if it becomes necessary. That's the only evidence. There is no evidence, and it's absolutely illogical and would be very surprising if the Russians blew it themselves, because they were using it as a tool to put pressure on the Western European countries. As you mentioned, Germany is the key Western European country. So, no, it's quite a pickle. As my grandfather used to say, we're in quite a pickle. And it's time for
why
Joe
would the
Biden
Russians,
to
Colonel?
step
Why would they
up.
want to delete $5 billion a month from their revenue source?
Right, and it's all coming in rubles, so it just makes it makes their economy that much stronger. But speaking of Americans being like you and me being called Putin puppets and those kind of things, we had a surprise today. And let me see if I can find the video from a well-known American politician. And we'll see if we can get this thing going without freezing this thing completely and get this video going, Matt. But I quite honestly was not surprised when I saw the tweet and then I went and looked at the video. I'm going to play it for you here real quick. And here you go, folks. Here was the October surprise for this week.
No longer remain in today's Democratic Party. It's now under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness who divide us.
That, my friend, is pretty darn aggressive. Now, that's just a very short clip. The context is what it is. I mean, she left the Democratic Party because of a number of reasons that she lists further in the video. Warmongering is one of them. And the immediate response that I saw on social media was, well, she's a Putin puppet anyway and loves the Russians. What do you think?
Of course. And of course, and then half the people on our side are like, well, she's a closet Democrat anyway. Don't trust her. That's the biggest problem now is no one, for being such a Christ-like movement, it's like none of these people on our side realize that people can change, that God can change people. I mean, it's just, you're either a Christian or you're not, Colonel, in this movement. And, and not to get spiritual or biblical on you, but I mean, I'm just being real right now. I'm appalled at how many people in our movement don't think that people can change or that God can't change people. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here with Tulsi Gabbard, but at the end of the day, take your victories when you get them, prop her up, tell her kudos, welcome her in. She's, most conservative men were like, oh, yeah, well, she's good looking. She's easy on the eye. She's smart. She's savvy, but she's a Democrat, and now the conservative men are looking at her like, Roger Rabbit looked at Jessica Rabbit, because she's left the Democrat Party. But this is a big deal because the biggest part of the speech to me was not necessarily her leaving. It was the fact that she was encouraging others to join her. Reminded me a lot of Brandon Straka, when he did what he did with Walk Away.
Right.
I think the key was she didn't really demand anything. She posed a question. which was, hey, if you feel the way I feel, if you don't feel the Democrat Party represents you, if you feel it has became an elitist movement that doesn't represent we the people, for the people, by the people, then join me in leaving the party. Come with me. And I think that could sway 2 or 3 million votes in itself if she's successful with her following.
Oh, this October surprise will have a greater impact than all of the candidates on the Republican side October surprises that they had for their opponents. There is no doubt in my mind that this is going to hurt the already debilitated Democrat Party candidates on November 8th. I think they're like Steve Bannon. I think they're going to be absolutely crushed, and we should crush them. They should be thrown out of power and never allowed to control anything greater than a newspaper route for the rest of the Democrat Party's history. These people have been this party has been evil for centuries. Democrats of today talk about, just the other day, we had Columbus Day, and they're throwing out, we had committed atrocities and blah, blah, blah. Well, Andrew Jackson, the president of the United States, was a Democrat, and he committed untold atrocities and sent the cavalry after the American Indian. And I'm not going to call them indigenous people because they came here from Asia. So you guys can go jump in a lake.
Happy Columbus Day,
think
Colonel. Belated, by the way.
Happy Columbus Day. I'm not Italian, but on Columbus Day, I'm Italian, and all Americans are Italian because, as Jack Posobiec said, you know what? We wouldn't have an America. And these people that are transgender and woke and LGBTQIAZWXY, whatever they want to call themselves, wouldn't be able to do the things that they do if it wasn't for Christopher Columbus. And by the way, the American Indian should have never gone to war with us in the first place, and he should have controlled his borders, because if he'd have had control of his borders, those refugees wouldn't have been allowed in here without making sure they were vetted properly and that they were peaceful. But they were peaceful until the Indians went to war against them. So there's a whole lot there that I think is just crazy. And I just on the subject of Gabbard, the first response to my retweet, I think I retweeted somebody's tweet of the video, it might have been Posobiec, was, "You can't trust her." I'm like, you people need to wake up, folks. You need to wake up and, number one, accept the victory. Accept it. It's a huge victory that she has left the Democrat Party, and the reasons why she left the Democrat Party are logical, they're pragmatic, and this woman understands the Constitution of the United States, even though I disagree with her, I think, on every spending policy she's ever supported, and those kind of things. And I disagree with her on abortion. She changed her position on abortion because of politics, in my opinion. So, we're going to disagree. But the one thing we don't disagree on is that this woman loves the United States of America as it was founded. As it was founded. That's what we are. We don't agree on everything, but we love the United States of America, and the other side that Tulsi Gabbard has just walked away from has left that other side because they don't love America as it was founded. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the biggest kicker is there, I was listening to you talk about the the Native Americans, Indians, whatever. It's just stupid that we can't even call them Indians anymore. I'm going to call them Indians. I don't care. This is dumb. It's the dumbest country in the world. We're woke and upset about everything at this point. Everything offends these idiots. I hate to break it to you, but the world is full of conquests, right? Everybody's been conquered at some point. That's how the world became where it's at. They're not
That's
mad
the way
at
it is,
the
man.
Romans, you never hear these people talk about the Romans, right? They just, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Colonel. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that people are really using their heads at all, other than they think in feelings, not facts. And I just don't. This whole thing with Gabbard, I mean, it's a win-win all around with this situation. There's no loss here, especially as you're talking about. Basically, we're 3 weeks away from a midterm now, a major midterm, which sadly half of our movement's still going around the country telling people their vote doesn't matter, and then at the same time they're like, "Oh, but get out and vote, though. That's imperative." It's stolen, but go vote. I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing at this point?
Your vote matters, folks. And more importantly, get into your precincts and your polling places as poll watchers. Go to the Republican Party, volunteer to be a poll watcher at your polling place if they don't have enough people. And you can even go to other polling places if they need more people. But you got to make contact with your local Republican Party. They're usually organized at the county level if they don't have precincts, and not all of them do have precincts. But you can also volunteer to be a poll worker and get paid. And we have to be involved in those. That's how Youngkin won Virginia. A friend of mine set up the National Voter Integrity Task Force. It started out as the Virginia Voter Integrity Task Force because in his county, he saw the fraud but was unable to do anything about it in an election. So he went back and did the hard work and started organizing. And now that same district is on the cusp of electing a Hispanic law enforcement woman, Yesli Vega, there against Abigail Spanberger, who is the fake American that votes with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden 100% of the time, but tries to tell you otherwise because she's a national security person. Don't buy it, folks. Don't buy it. And you brought up elections, so that's a nice segue. I got another video as we change. It's about Gabbard too, but it's also to center on the elections. And this is an example, folks, of the kind of candidate and the way a candidate needs to fight. Because the days of being nice and collegial between Republicans and Democrats is over because they're trying to destroy the United States of America as it was founded. Let me see if I can find this video. You're going to love it. My producer's an Army guy, so he's a little slow.
You got to watch those guys, you know?
You do got to watch those guys. Let's see here. We'll bring it up.
Great at making sandwiches, though, Colonel, from what I hear. You know, those guys.
Army guy. They don't even pitch tents very well. So here we go. Watch this.
Presentation, my view, but let's hear it from me, not from Congressman Ryan. I absolutely think the 10-year-old girl, the case that we've of course heard a lot about, an incredibly tragic situation. I mean, look, I've got a 9-year-old baby girl at home. I cannot imagine what that's like for the girl, for her family. God forbid something like that would happen. I have said repeatedly on the record that I think that girl should be able to get an abortion if she and her family so choose to do so. But let's talk about that case. Because why was a 10-year-old girl raped in our community, raped in our state in the first place? The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien, somebody that should have never been in this state in the first place. You voted so many times against border wall funding, so many times for amnesty, Tim. If you had done your job, she would have never been raped in the first place. Do your job on border security. Don't lecture me about opinions I don't actually have.
That is how you do it, folks. That is how you do it. Look, a lot of us have run for office. I started running for office. I ran for the U.S. Senate, just like J.D. Vance is. I support J.D. Vance. I'm going to be honest about that and upfront and transparent, just like I support Yesli Vega. But that is how you do it. You don't take anything off of these people, and when they ask you a question, they're trying to make you look bad or anything. You answer the question, and then you hammer the crap out of them. And that's what J.D. Vance just did. That was J.D. Vance, Marine Corps veteran who joined the Marine Corps 20 years ago. And the debate was just last night. He hammered Tim Ryan, who has been in Congress for, 20 years or so, votes 100% with Pelosi and Biden, and now is out there trying to say he's a working man and woman's politician, and he supports America First policies. He's actually said that under Trump he supported America First policies, and of course JD's team is completely out of it. But that's how we're going to win. We're not going to win by being nice. Don't you agree, Matt?
I completely agree. I mean, and I think that's kind of the premise here, that conservative candidates and conservatives alike, you've got about 90% of our movement that's afraid to hurt someone's feelings, Colonel. And that's a real problem as well. They don't want to say the truth or speak the truth for the simple fact that they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And that's realistically what's gotten ourselves into this mess. JD handled that exchange perfectly. He let them come at him, and then he just slapped them around, and it was beautiful to watch. And I think that's the problem. Most people won't do what J.D. Vance just did. They will try to make excuses. They will apologize, which you never should apologize to a liberal. It's like trying to tell a bobcat not to eat you when you're on a trail. It's not going to work. And
I got called an extremist by a crazy guy on the radio one night, and I told him, I cut him off, and I told him I didn't use any profanity, but I told him, I said, blow me, get the hell out of here. And people wanted me to apologize for being upset that I was called an extremist by some crazy radio guy with him trying to make me look bad. That's what they did to Barry Goldwater. They painted him as an extremist, and he lost the presidency. In the Republican Party of the old, let it happen. I refuse to ever apologize for anything. I take responsibility for what I said. I was in the military a long time, both enlisted and officer, been around some rough people, and I'm a rough people. Even though I, left the military and retired as a full colonel, I still have that roughness inside of me, being an NCO and bomb disposal work and those kind of things. And you know what? You start attacking me like that and trying to have an impact on my honor and my integrity, especially as a military member. And I'm going to come back at you, and I'm not going to apologize for getting pissed off when you try to do that, you crazy liberals.
It reminds me, Colonel, you remind me of that scene in The Patriot where the guy asked Mel Gibson, he's like, am I that kind of folks? And he's like, no, you're the kind that gives those folks a bad name. That's us. And that's literally who we've all become in this version of America, because we have the courage and the testicular fortitude to say what's right, regardless of what they're going to say about us.
That's right.
I mean, I've the Seth Rich stuff has kind of been, heating up a little bit, but, I haven't said hardly anything about that case. I'm letting my attorneys do their work. My team's investigating any leads we get. But the point is, we haven't been vocal hardly about that case in 18 months. Yeah. And they're still writing. Every time I turn around, there's a damn Rolling Stone hit piece. And what I'm getting at is, you can't please these folks, Colonel. They're going to come at you. They're going to attack, and they're never going to let up. They are relentless cowards, and they will attack anyone who wants to speak truth in this country. And they're not going to stop. And that's the thing that I think conservatives have to understand. This whole, if I lay on my back like a turtle, or I turn the other cheek, or I just crawl in a hole and hide, or I just avoid the subject, things will get better. Colonel, It's not getting better. It's time for some of you to grow some stones and get in the fight.
Yeah, Matt, and let me tell you how important it is, folks. The state of Louisiana, when I ran for the U.S. Senate, I was running against a guy named Bill Cassidy, who's a senator now, and Mary Landrieu. And it was time for Mary Landrieu to go because of her corrupt family had been in control of the state for too many years, and she'd already been in the Senate for 18 years. But Bill Cassidy was a Democrat donor of Mary Landrieu and decided to be a Republican when he first started running for office. But you know what? The people of Louisiana made their choice. We got our message to them. They didn't like it that a guy that had just come out of the military and moved to the state was going to be their senator. And that talking point was used against us quite effectively. And Cassidy was able to get into a runoff with Landrieu, and she won, and I backed him. But what did Bill Cassidy do in 2021? He voted to convict Donald Trump on the second trumped up, no pun intended, charges, the false charges of the second impeachment. And that's the kind, you get the government you deserve, they say. Before you vote, make sure you know who you're voting for. Don't listen to necessarily the partisan propaganda that's going to go around at the local, state, and national level. Do your work, investigate your candidates, and give to your candidates and any of the super PACs that they've acknowledged that are working with them. Don't give it to the NRSC. Don't give it to the NRCC. And let Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell take out your America First candidates, because that's what happens.
I love it when my money
That's what
goes to a
happens.
yacht party, Colonel, with McCarthy and McConnell. It's exciting.
I've never been to a yacht party with them, and I don't expect I'll ever be invited, because I'm just here to tell the truth. And they
Well,
can't
you're not
handle the
around for
truth.
70-year-old orgies and blow like Madison Cawthorn apparently was with these guys. So, yeah, I mean, that's the craziest thing is that they're so out of touch with the base. These guys are. McCarthy's kissing Trump's ass because he knows they can't win without Trump in a lot of areas. McConnell has doubled down on the stupid, and he basically, is he's basically going against anything Trump does right now. The old owl or whatever.
Yeah.
How many nicknames does McConnell have, Colonel? The old owl.
The
turtle. The turtle. I mean, it's
Cocaine
just
Mitch.
Cocaine Mitch. Yeah,
but it's not deserved.
yeah, he got what he got wild for like what 1 20-minute segment back in the day, and
Just so he could take out an opponent in West Virginia, I think it was. I mean, it's look, these guys they have done good things. I'm not saying that they hate the country or anything, but they're about maintaining their power at this point. And I just put up a comment from a Facebook user that somebody on Getter wanted me to use profanity. Okay, here it is. Cassidy's an ass. Reading the comment from the Facebook user.
In my time, I've never used language like that broadcasting, Colonel. You know me.
I tell you what. Well, this is my show, and I'm streaming it to wherever, and I'll use whatever.
I'm kind of like
I
George
want.
Carlin. I name the 7 dirty words, once in a blue moon on my program, and the pastors love it when I do that.
Well, I'm sure my wife, if she sees the show, I'm going to be in trouble, but I'll just have to take the heat. Here's another one. There you go.
There's a party.
We can come out on these guys' party barge.
As long as you're playing some Craig Morgan, Little Redneck Yacht Club, the Colonel and I will be there.
Oh, yeah, man. Let me look at the Getter chat, see what's going on. Definitely use profanity. Use Zelensky tactics. They work. That's true. They do work. The Democrats have proven it over and over again. So what do you think, looking at the different elections going around? I mean, even in Pennsylvania, the polling looks like it's starting to come around. I only look at 3 pollsters, People's Pundit,
Sure.
the big data polling with Rich Barris and Trafalgar and Rasmussen. They seem to be the most reliable. The data is easy to get to. So, I mean, it looks to me like even Oz in Pennsylvania and maybe Colonel Mastriano running for governor there might have a chance, and that's probably one of the biggest hills to climb. And then Blake Masters, I'm pretty sure Vance, Poland's looking like he's like 5 points ahead. I think he's going to blow him out, especially after that debate performance. If people have any sense whatsoever, they'll blow Ryan out and get him the hell out of politics.
If you're a Democrat and you're watching right now and you're very confused by what you're hearing, don't be afraid. Don't run away, okay? I just want you to ask one question. Are you better off right now than you were 20 months ago? That's the only question that needs to be asked. Are you honestly, can you look at your finances, look at your pocketbook, look at your checkbook, whatever the hell you use nowadays, online banking, whatever. Can you look at your bills? When you go to a grocery store, you go out to eat with your family, or you try to go somewhere, fill up a tank of gas. Can you honestly say you're better off than you were on January 19th of 2021 financially? Because everything since January 20th of 2021 has been an absolute dumpster fire in this country, in this nation. Now, you don't have to like some of the values, and people have got to stop being on both sides of the aisle, have got to stop being one-issue voters. Reagan always said if we can be 80, 20, 70, 30, we can get along, and we've got to get back to that as Americans. And for me, bringing the gas prices down, fracking and getting the oil back up and running, getting energy independent again. We've almost depleted our entire SPR. Literally calming this situation down with Russia and the Ukraine. And nobody's even talking about the fact that the South Koreans and the North Koreans are just firing missiles back and forth across the ocean at each other.
Yeah.
Posturing right now. Got that situation going on. Putin and Xi meeting to talk about the Ukraine and Taiwan. That's got to be wonderful for the world, All of these things are happening. Then you look at the southern border. I'm just throwing facts out, folks. This is not feelings. These are facts. Look at the southern border where almost 300,000 illegals per month that we know of are coming into this country illegally. That's 3.6 million a year, and I think it was over 4 million in 2021, even though they claim it's 3.6 if you just do the numbers.
Yeah.
But you look at Greg Abbott today, I think it was yesterday, he said he bussed like 14,000 illegal immigrants to 3 sanctuary cities. That's great and all, but when you're talking about 300,000 a month, Colonel, that's just posturing. That's all it is. It's political posturing. It looks cool on paper, it looks cool on a TV screen, but you're not accomplishing anything. But folks, look at the issues. Look at your gas prices. Look at the cost of goods. Look at the cost of your grocery bill. Look at the southern border. Look at what's happening with Putin in the Ukraine. Look at the fact that you've got a guy in the White House who is literally high-fiving dead people. He's trying to shake hands with people that aren't there. Look at what you've been dealt, and then vote accordingly. If you can still vote for a Democrat after everything I've just said, and once again, I'm not trying to do the name calling, but if you can still vote for a Democrat after everything I've said, you're not a realist. You're not an American. You just don't give a damn, and I'll yield back, Colonel.
Well, I'm not going to call him any names either, but folks, if you don't listen to Matt and people like him, you're going to get the government you deserve. And the government you deserve is what all of the things that he just laid out. That's the government the country deserves because of what happened in November of 2020. Regardless of whether you think Joe Biden actually won, or if you're like me, where you go, man, something doesn't smell right with everything that was going on in the swing states, and then the Newsweek article that comes out and admits that big tech colluded with a bunch of other folks and paid off government officials by calling it grants and those kinds of things, and taking control of polling apparatus that's supposed to be run by the state and local government employees, which are supposed to have integrity and be working for everybody and nonpartisan. But you know what? Regardless of which side of that issue you're on, the list is still factually correct. This country, your wallet's in the toilet. You can't get to the wallet in the toilet. And even though you got to pay grocery bills that are 25% higher now, don't buy the 13% that came from the government and their media outlets. It's a 25% if you look at your bills compared to last year, maybe even a little bit higher. The president has used the Strategic Petroleum Reserve inappropriately to drive refined gasoline prices down. I don't know if you noticed, I drive a diesel pickup truck, and that stuff hadn't gone down. That's for sure. It cost me $150 to fill up my truck these days. So, your wallet's in the toilet and you can't get to it because it's surrounded by crap. And these prices are the reason why you can't afford anything. And that didn't come from the previous administration. That didn't come prior to January 1st, 2021. That came on January 20th, 21st, 2021, when Joe Biden started destroying our energy independence, started destroying our border policy, and we haven't even talked about crime
Right.
and the massive amounts of fentanyl. This country has had over 100,000 fentanyl drug overdoses countrywide for 2 years now. How many people is that? We only lost 57,000 dead in Vietnam. And I'm rounding, so don't get mad if I get the numbers exactly wrong. But that's pretty damn close. 57,000 people, and for 2 years in a row, we've lost 100,000 people to fentanyl, and the fentanyl is coming through that border, and the materials are being provided by the Communist Chinese Party in China to the cartels in Mexico. And all Joe Biden's policies have done is help the cartels with three things: human trafficking, sex trafficking, and fentanyl trafficking. And that's where it's coming from. So if you think that all of those things are okay, and if you're a Democrat living in a blue city, even if it's in a red state and your crime rate's through the roof. I mean, New Orleans is in a purplish red state, and I've seen grandmas get their arms torn off by carjackers on video and die. And 4 or 5 teenagers shooting guns on a street corner at cars going by in downtown New Orleans. I haven't been in downtown New Orleans in over 2 years, mainly because of their crazy COVID restrictions.
That's the new murder capital of the world now.
Yeah, I have no reason to go there anymore. I won't go there, and I don't live that far away because I don't want my family to get hurt. But quite frankly, I don't want to get hurt. There's no reason for it. But all of these things can change. All of these things can change if you'll vote for the government that you think we deserve instead of just accepting what's happening and going with a political party. You know, I've had to oppose my political party before, and it's tough to do. It's tough to do. You know, I've only resigned from the Republican Party once in my life, but it was a principled thing, and I had to oppose them. So I resigned. I'm back in the Republican Party now because I've seen that it's the only political party that actually loves the United States of America as it was founded, even with its crappy politicians in charge of it that don't act like that, and they don't pass bills like they believe in limited government. They at least still love the way it was founded. So what do you think about Blake Masters in Arizona?
I think he's got a great shot to win. And I was just thinking, when you left the Republican Party, is that when you worked for Ross Perot? I'm throwing a guess out there.
No. I had to go against a Trump-endorsed, GOP-endorsed governor's candidate that had been personally responsible, him and one other millionaire, for bringing Common Core to the state of Louisiana. And that was an issue that I wasn't going to support any political candidate. And we had a choice. We had a great veteran that was, he wasn't perfect, but a guy named Ralph Abraham out of Northeast Louisiana, who's a good man, good family man, a good businessman, and a ranger, Army Ranger. And the people of Louisiana chose poorly. And you know what? They ended up with a Democrat governor who at the time he's a West Point graduate, and all this woke stuff hadn't started yet. So, but now I wouldn't even support him under today's context because I can't support anybody in the Democrat Party because of all this critical race theory and wokeism and hate for the United States of America. I mean, for goodness sake, they're trying to gin up hatred to cancel Christopher Columbus, for goodness sake. Come on, folks, get with it. People have moved places all over the world since the beginning of time. And you know what? If you keep your borders open like the Native Indians did here, and you don't vet people, you tend to lose your nation. And that's what the United States is doing right now with its southern border. We're going to lose our nation if we don't get that under control.
No, they
all right,
are. Blake Masters. Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a shot, man. I really do. I mean, he's the PayPal, guy. Most people know him as one of the main guys of PayPal with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and things of that nature. But he's got a great message. He's got the money to run and have a chance to win out there. If he doesn't get the funding, he can still fund himself. Yeah. He's obviously better than the liberal. He's running against a liberal like lieutenant colonel or colonel, right? I believe is that who he's running against out there? I can't remember the guy's name. So he's a bald guy that I couldn't stand.
He's an astronaut, and I think he's either a Navy or Marine pilot with combat time.
Yeah, but he's so Mark Kelly, but he's so liberal in his views too, pro-abortion. Basically, some of the stuff that he has said would make you question anything about his character, regardless of his service duty. And we thank anyone for their service. I mean, I don't like to bash veterans. I don't make a habit out of it, but this is just when you look at some of the things that Mark Kelly in Arizona, that he's done, that he's said, that he's He says that he backs Roe v. Wade, but he can't name abortion limits that he supports, for example. That makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, and he tries to use his astronaut and military service to make him seem conservative, to appeal to moderate and conservative voters, and it's just a lie. It's a lie. I'm not. It's not personal. His brother's an astronaut too. They're twins. I'm a big fan of the astronaut program. Wanted to be one when I was a kid. But this is about the country and the way the country is going to be in 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 years. And what's happening right now is the destruction of the country that exists, and it's almost gone. In my lifetime, the country that I grew up in is almost disappeared. And I'm not talking about land.
He's in a border state too, Colonel. He's not saying anything about the border problems in that state. He's the U.S. Senator. He represents the people of Arizona. He could easily, bridge the gap, if you will, to steal a BLM term. Since they stole millions, I can surely steal one of their terms, right? But
absolutely, man.
With that being said, it's like, why? He could bridge a gap there and be like, hey, look, I'm a Democrat. Look at the. I mean, actually, if he wanted to win re-election, he should have been standing at the border, going, hey, I'm a Democrat. I'm a military veteran. This is unacceptable. With Speedy Gonzalez running behind him. Mm-hmm. I mean, like that would have been a powerful commercial where he could have possibly got independents and, moderates as well as conservatives to possibly even vote for him. But he's not doing anything.
If he had stood up and told Joe Biden no, he wouldn't have an opponent like Blake Masters. They wouldn't be strong opponents. But he's so weak, and he's trying to make himself look like he's not. But you got to look at people's actions, folks. Look at their actions. I know voting records a cliche, but you really do have to look at people's voting records. There are some people that I've supported when they ran that I would never vote for again based on their voting record. It happens all the time, and it should happen more.
Colonel, your wife's going to probably watch this program back, so I don't want her to think less of me. I want her to think that I'm an upstanding gentleman. But I was going to say that I think you and I should see what it costs to license Speedy Gonzalez. And we should start making Stop Speedy shirts with Speedy Gonzalez on the front. And, a little Border Patrol shirt. We give a portion of the proceeds to the Border Patrol. Do you think your wife would go for this, or am I officially in trouble now?
I don't know. I think she might go for it.
I'm just saying. I mean, don't you think Stop Speedy? You got Speedy Gonzalez on the front, and the back's kind of like an old Smokey the Bear slogan. Only you can stop.
You could have him. You could have Speedy with a little clear plastic bag full of rainbow fentanyl.
Oh yeah, he could have a little pouch of fentanyl in one hand and a ladder in the other. It'd be beautiful. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. That's a good idea, man. Get the artists to work on that, will you?
Yeah, we got to see what they. I mean, Looney Tunes. They've already deemed him racist, so they're not going to use him, right? We can surely buy that license cheap.
Exactly. So, all right, I got one more. I think I got one more video here, and this what we're about to look at is a reason to vote to remove the current powers that are in office out of office, because if you think this is okay, then especially if you're a Democrat, if you think this is okay, this will come to you in a future opposition political party administration. If you think this is okay, we need to come together and stop this. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Federal Bureau of Investigation doing tactical raids on Christian homes.
You're not going to tell me anything?
I tried.
No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You did not try. Can I have your name? You're not going to give me your name? You're not going to give me any information?
Brother, one of the most disturbing things that I've seen in the last 2 years is the politicization of the legal system. It started before the Biden administration in the intelligence world. The intelligence system has been completely politicized. We know that now. Donald Trump was right. He was being spied on. He was being spied on a lot earlier than people think he was. all his people were being spied on. The Department of Justice has been so politicized that they're going after Christian pro-life protesters and doing tactical raids with SWAT teams on homes with kids. And in this particular case, the Christian man, the husband, was literally getting in the car with his kids to take them to school. And not only did the agents not give the man's wife any information, but when they rolled up, he said the guy that was arrested said that an agent came over to my kids with a long gun, pointed at them, and kept them from moving while he was being arrested. That is absolutely incredible. I don't give a damn what party you're in. If you think this is acceptable, or if you think the treatment of the January 6th political prisoners, that Tucker Carlson finally did a show on it again. He does one every once in a while, but he called them out. If you think this is acceptable, then when power changes, and it always does in this country at some point, you better watch out if you're on the side right now that agrees with this, because I don't agree with it. And I'm going to fight for the rest of my life to make sure this republic is returned back to a constitutional republic based on the founding values. Because this is totally unacceptable, and I'm calling for the complete abolishment and defunding of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's no longer needed. It was needed in the 1920s when it was created because there was interstate criminal traffic, that there was no system to help law enforcement track these criminals down and stop them and predict where they were going or be ready for them. But today, with all of the technology we have, the most that we need from from an organization like the FBI is a crime lab. A national crime lab would be okay, but the Constitution doesn't give federal officials law enforcement power anyway, so they're extra constitutional, and it's time to rip it apart. And I'm calling for a major downsizing of the Department of Justice to prevent this type of activity from happening to American citizens. It's just absolutely incredible. It's wrong. And when you put it in the context of 2020, when we watched 6 months, $2 billion worth of property damage, 700 people injured, and I think over 30 people that were killed in the Black Lives Matters riots and insurrection at the White House, yes, in Washington, D.C., where even the Department of Defense Secretary wouldn't support the president activating the National Guard to defend the White House. We live in two separate societies, and this country cannot last with unequal application of the law, or with agencies like the FBI or the NSA now, or the CIA. All of that needs to be taken a look at, dismantled, deconstructed, and put back together with only the needs that we have as a nation to defend ourselves. This FBI ain't it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we're kind of living in a country right now that our founding fathers fought to escape. And I think that's the powerful statement that so many Americans are scared to, they've literally tried to turn the 1776, which is when we, the Declaration of Independence, we all know I say that, God, hell, I was about to say we all know our history. I'm like, wait a minute. I've seen enough videos to know that probably 80% of those under 30 don't have a clue what we're talking about right now. That's how sad the education system is in America. Mm-hmm. But that's the biggest thing. Colonel, they've turned 1776 into like a hate symbol, like being proud of our independence, being proud of our. But yet it's perfectly fine to go out and celebrate Cinco de Mayo and get tanked. Mm-hmm. Perfectly fine. But the 4th of July, 1776, that's now a bad word, a bad thing. You can't be patriotic. You can't love America. You can love other countries, but you can't love America. And so, I encourage people that, to get more patriotic. To wear a 1776 shirt. We should be proud of our independence, because without it, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. Look at England. They can't own guns. Hell, they can't even own knives. Yeah. You can't even walk around with a pocket knife in London, folks, because of all the Muslims that are stabbing people. I'm not afraid to say it. Somebody else, Colonel's not afraid to say it, but most people in our movement with their blue checks, and even though Colonel, I have blue checks, on Facebook. I don't want to lose our blue checks, Colonel. I got to be careful. But the point
I don't have
is,
a blue check on Facebook. They refuse
what?
to give me one.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Man, somebody
Yeah,
must have
I'm
been
sure
drunk
of it.
when they gave me one. There was somebody who's like, let's give Matt Couch one and see how our boss reacts. You know, there's somebody over at Meta that's stunned that I have blue check marks over there. But the whole point is that this is why we're America. We you know, there is an arrogance about America. That's what people find so envious of America, is the swagger, is the cockiness, is the fact that, you know, and I'm going to say this, and people are going to go, oh, that's not very Christian-like of Matt Couch. We're Americans, and we do think we're better than you, and we are better than you. That's right. Why we're America. That's why we're great. That's why we want to make America great again. It's got nothing about racism or cultural stereotypes. It's about being the best that we can be in every facet as a country and kicking your ass at everything from the military to the Olympics. And the fact that we live in a country to where this is being shunned. It started with Barack Hussein Obama, the great community organizing divider. That's where it started. And the fact that we live in a country now to where good Christian conservative Americans are afraid to even mimic what I just said there, Colonel, is about 90% of the problem. Until some of the people in this country start getting the courage to stand up, speak out, get involved. Right now, we're about 3.5 weeks until the midterms. There is still time for you to work at a poll. Yeah. There's still time to be a poll watcher, work a phone bank, join a local street team, join a local city, state, federal campaign. There is time for everyone to be involved. And by the way, I'm going to challenge everybody that watches this program. Everybody should be able to go out and register no matter what state you're in. 75 million people voted for Donald J. Trump. Who knows the real numbers? Yeah. But how in the hell can everyone not go out and register 3 new voters? That should be everyone's mission until November 8th. And you got a deadline. You probably got less till probably like November 3rd, but I don't know what the dates are for the cutoffs. But everybody watching this broadcast that considers themselves a conservative and wants to get America out of the gutter that it's in under the Democrats and Joe Biden, and let's just not hang it on Joe Biden. Because if everyone keeps saying Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, when they dump this guy in 6 months, they're going to be like, oh, we got rid of the problem. We're back, baby. Right. So it is the Democrats. You know, I want to clarify that. It is the Democrats that are the problem. But everyone, Colonel, could be registering new voters. That takes minimal effort. If you need questions on how to do it, my DMs are open. On Getter, Gab, wherever, Telegram, message me. I'll walk you through it. But folks, get involved and stop sitting on your hands, or we're going to lose the country. And I'll impair them with this too. If you're not willing to do it for yourself because you're lazy or scared, are you willing to do it for your children? Because that's what this is really about. I've got 2 daughters, 8 and 15. That's why I've been sued into the Stone Age. That's why I fight every day. Because my kids and them having somewhat of an America that I grew up in is what we're still fighting for, and I'll yield back.
That's wonderful, Matt. I agree with you completely. I would add you can take 5 of your family members to vote if they'll vote to win the country back instead of voting to continue this craziness. And I'll just reiterate, it's not just Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean, all that election did was prove that a political party could elect a popsicle if we wanted to go into an office. It's all of the administrative people that are appointed around him and those behind the scenes that are pulling the ropes and the strings. Because I guarantee you, nobody acts alone in this business. It's too big. But it's time definitely for a change, and we need to crush them. Well, Matt Couch, thank you very much for joining us, publisher of the DCPatriot.com, also CEO of the Faith and Freedoms. I want to call it an apparel company because they have great apparel. I look forward to the Speedy Gonzalez shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie, all that good stuff.
We'll partner on that one, Colonel. We'll partner on it.
And you can find him. I've had his Getter handle up all the show at Real Matt Couch on Getter. Anything
and on your
else,
Facebook
Matt?
page, no, you're live. I was going to say, when you get done, if you'll go tag me in this broadcast on your Facebook, we'll see if we can't wreck their algorithms, and I'll get it out to my followers and really upset Meta.
All right, man. We will do that as soon as we get out of here. Well, thank you very much, my friend.
God bless,
it's good
brother.
to talk to you, and thanks for spending some time with us and working through the craziness that's happening all week long. We'll talk to you
Al-
later, man.
Always an honor. See you, brother.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Matt Couch. I hope you like the new format. I think we're going to go to this both with me as solo and then occasionally have a guest to walk through the issues and talk about them more extensively, like Matt Couch. Again, we're inside of 4 weeks to the election. I'm not going to say it's the most important election that will be in your lifetime, but every election is important. It's when we ignore them that we end up with Joe Biden's and Democrat administrations at the federal level. And get out there, volunteer to be a poll watcher, volunteer to work the polls as an employee. You can do that. Just go to your local county clerk's website or the Secretary of State in your state's website. The information will be there for you. But we've got to do it. If we don't do it, the other side will do all of it, and we all don't have any confidence in them and their ability to run a free and fair election, and it's all in question. So your vote counts. Get yourselves out there to do it. Put a sign in your yard for your favorite candidate that still loves America. And remember, I'm Rob Maness, and I'll see you next week.